Hey everyone, my name's Cam and I'm the creator of Tommy's Mariah Part 1 and 2. So I wanted to do these documentaries because, to be honest, I saw the Whitney documentary. It came out in 2018 and I just was blown away by it. I thought it was amazing. Especially the part where they show her success and, the seven number one singles, and that little segment was the kind of idea where this came from. Because the trailer for the documentaries I made is the same thing as the Whitney movie. I thought it'd be cool to kind of flesh out the relationship with Mariah and Tommy through the music video and the acapella. I thought it'd be a really cool idea to combine them both and tell the story in that way, because Tommy doesn't do many interviews. So I used a clip of an interview that he did do where he was talking about the relationship to bring it all together. And that's kind of how the seed of the whole documentary started. It didn't start like it was going to be a big project, especially for me to do by myself. So I just started with that. I thought it'd be a really cool idea. And then the idea developed into more. So I've always been really fascinated with Tommy and Mariah's relationship and that specific segment of her career. I think their relationship was so interesting, and I think his control over her was so interesting, because when you're on top of the world, you seem to have all this agency and power, but really you have none because of how you got there. I think TLC talked about it. Because of the greedy people who got them to where they were unhappy and broke. So Mariah definitely wasn't broke, but she was very unhappy, and she was in a relationship with a man 20 something years old, her senior. Like, why has there not been a biopic about this? It's so interesting. So I thought it would be possible, and it would be cool to talk about those years of her life and talk about those years of her career and really make something out of it. And it started out just as a two-part series, kind of. First part being with the childhood up to the debut, and then the Emotions era, and then MTV Unplugged, and then that would be part one. And then part two would be Music Box, the Christmas album, and Daydream, up to the divorce. So I thought it would be really cool to lead up to everything up to that point and kind of show what was going on in an abusive marriage. This really isn't a story about Mariah Carey. It's a story about abuse. What kind of power trip can go on in the inner workings of a relationship, and how you don't see what's really going on behind closed doors. I thought that was really interesting to play with. And even though you're in all these music videos and you seem to be on top of the world, you could be secretly struggling, and no one's really gonna know or really care, because of you're at the top. Everyone just thinks you're on top of the world. So I thought it was a really cool idea to kind of look at what was really going on behind the scenes. That's why specifically this period of time interested me. Like I said, it started really small, and then it kind of grew in size. And first it was about organizing the clips, doing the research, figuring out what happened, because the memoir hadn't even come out yet when I started working on this. So it took like about three or 4 months. I finished in the beginning of August, and then I posted it on Vimeo because of copyright reasons, and nothing really happened. So I was able to figure out how to get it onto YouTube temporarily, because the original version of this documentary was about 2.5 hours, and it heavily included music videos. So it would include full music videos and stuff like that. So that had to be eventually changed, but that was the original version. So 2.5 hours, very long and drawn out. So then after a month, it had big success for me. At least I was very happy with it. I was ecstatic. And then unfortunately it got taken down because of copyright. So I was very, very sad about that. But in that period of time, because it had been doing pretty well, I started to really work on part two, because in the beginning I had worked on them together, and then I realized I kind of had to just focus on part one if I was ever going to finish it, because it was pretty long amount of work. So I was focusing on part one, and then when everything was going well for it, I started to work on part two, and I really got into it. And I got about halfway through the work on part two when it got taken down, part one. So I stopped working on it, and I was pretty bummed about it for a couple months, and then I was like, okay, I should probably start working on this again. So I had to go back and finish part 2, kind of have it be at the same standard of part 1, and then I had to go back into part 1 and remove all the copyright bits, but at that point the memoir had come out. And part 2 used bits of the memoir to kind of narrate things, to flesh them out, so you kind of get the inner thoughts of what's going on, to make it more poignant, because, you know, interviews can only go so far. I went back into part 1, took out everything I found unnecessary or too long, and anything that would cause copyright issues. I removed that, and then I put in the new parts and reworked it. It went from 2.5 hours down to about 1:47, I think. A substantial amount was cut, and I think for good reason, and I think it really makes everything flow a lot better. I think it was too long. I think they're already too long, but you know, it is what it is. So and then I was able to finish part 2. Eventually I finished it, and was able to, you know, remove copyright sections of it to get it posted on YouTube, because the copyright Nazis, man, it's crazy. Once I got them both up, I was very happy that I was able to do that, and very happy that I was able to finish both of them. By the end of January, I finished it, and I had started working on both of them in April. So now I'm very happy with, you know, what's happening for the documentaries, and they're getting a good amount of views, so I'm very excited about that. By far the most asked question I get is about a part 3, because there's part 1 and part 2, but there's so many more years to cover. And in regards to part 3, I have not started working on anything as of now, but I'm just finishing my semester, so I'll be able to go back to it and really start working on it. I wanted to start a GoFundMe, which I will link in the description, to kind of push part 2 and part 1, because it's very hard to put out these documentaries when you don't have really the rights to these things. So acquiring the rights would really help me so much, and maybe I'd be able to send it to festivals and stuff and really get it out there. But, you know, the Lambs seemed to really like it, so I was very excited about that. So I've linked it down there. If any of you could support it, I'd really appreciate it. It will also help the development of part 3, which I think would cover from Butterfly to Glitter. Everyone wants to know what happened during Glitter, so I think it'd be really interesting to cover that and then do a part 3, because people have been asking me about it. So yeah, and also to push kind of the success or whatever of part 1 and 2, and, you know, really be able to get it seen. That'd be really amazing. So if you guys could support me, I'd really appreciate it. And thank you so much for all the views and all the comments and everything. I read every single comment, and I'm very grateful for it. So thanks very much, guys, and talk to you later.